They basically saying like, look, the jury didn't think that he was guilty of the coercion and this, that, and all of these other things, right? Even Kid Cudi coming in the court testifying, saying all the things that he said. Whether we think Cudi was true or not, he's a plumb fool.
Oh no, you can't be serious. That is some bullshit right there.
He snitched and did all of that. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, he didn't even have cameras in his house. If he had cameras in his house, allegedly, he would have been able to prove that Diddy was there. So imagine how fool Kid Cudi is, and you just snitch for nothing. It's just retarded. Anyway, specifically, they say that the jury acquitted Diddy of coercion, force, sex, and the trafficking counts. Yet the judge nonetheless treated the convictions as involving force, fraud, and coercion enhancements, which the defense says conflicts with the jury verdict. Okay, I understand that. They making good grounds on that. But I was there in Diddy's court when Diddy was sentenced. I was inside his court. You know what I mean? Not in the other rooms and all that. You know what I mean? I went up there for this day because I just really wanted to see exactly what was going to happen. And the whole time while the judge was ruling and he was knocking off and overruling, you know what I'm saying, all of, you know what I'm saying, better dismissing or whatever the case may be, all of the enhancement that the prosecution wanted, because he dismissed things on both sides. But he was dismissing a lot of the enhancements that the prosecution wanted to do. He was like, nah, I dismissed that. But, you know, even regardless, like irregardless to all of it, even if I'm dismissing the enhancement or whatever you're seeking, the motion for the enhancement, it doesn't weigh on what my sentence is going to be. And he said that like 4 times or 5 times in a way. I'm like, what does he mean? Like, so what is he going to sentence him to? Though? So if the enhancements don't mean nothing, because I was there. I'm like, if the enhancements don't mean that much on your, weigh that heavily on your sentence, because it seems like you're going to sentence him to what you're going to sentence him to. So I was like, all right, cool. He going to get the 5 years then. That's what I was thinking the whole time, bro. And I said that before this. I think that they're going to give him what the probation is seeking. But the judge did better than what probation was seeking. And that's why I think that if it's not proven all of these things that the defense is seeking, it might be hard, you know what I mean, for them to wiggle out of that, you know what I mean, because the defense also did get a break because the probation wanted 5 years as the minimum. You see what I'm saying? And you got like how many months less than that? You got 4 years and 2. You got 10 months less. You got 10 months less than what the probations was seeking. All right, cool. So you already know the coercion. They claim that by doing so, the judge functioned like a 13th juror, since typically the jury is the fact finder and the judge imposes sentence based on the jury's findings plus relevant guidelines, relevant then respecting the jury's verdict. Okay. Now, the use of acquitted conduct at a sentence. Now, we understand that relevant conduct, things that you could be acquitted of, can be used as relevant conduct, brought back up if it flies or not, but it's legal that they bring back this as relevant conduct to enhance your sentencing guidelines. Okay. So to push the sentencing guidelines or push your sentence. Okay. The defense argues that the judge improperly considered conduct that the jury rejected or did not convict Diddy of, i.e., coercion, force, and sex trafficking counts in calculating enhancements to the sentence. They point to the rule guideline update. For example, the U.S. Sentencing Commission had amended guidelines to restrict judges' use of acquitted conduct in many sentencing decisions. Hold up. In many sentencing decisions, the defense says that the judge's treatment was inconsistent with that. Now, in plain terms, if the jury said not guilty of coercion and force, the defense argues that the judge shouldn't penalize Diddy based on the theory that he used coercion and force. Now, the sentence is unreasonable or in excess of what was appropriate. Now, the defense argues that the sentence is too harsh in light of the conviction, the 2 prostitution transportation counts, mitigating factors, Diddy's lack of recent criminal history, his community ties, his remorse, which I saw him say it in court, and the fact that he was acquitted of more serious charges. They claim that the sentencing did not properly account for the jury's verdict and the difference between the charges of the conviction and the larger theory of the case, which the prosecutors heavily emphasized. All of the things that they were saying that he did, and the baby-os, the lace-ols, and all of this, it was men, women, kids, all kind of things, allegedly. You know what I mean? All of these extra things. The case that the prosecution was pushing out was way more than all of this, and he's being sentenced much more harder, even though when he had these couple of charges that other people had and then got probation. You could go to Stebic, Trowbridge, and Tills and Allen. You could go to that case right there. You know what I mean? You could go to Chavez case and a couple of cases that Diddy's defense team cited, besides a couple of cases that I can name to you too that I also read on my own, just to see what other cases besides the cases that they cited. You know what I mean? I'm not like Diddy's defense team Dresco. You know what I'm saying? He read like 900 cases. All right, cool. The constitutional and procedural concerns. By alleging that the judge acted as a 13th juror, they are signaling possible due process or Sixth Amendment jury trial rights issues that the jury decides guilt facts and that the judge cannot substitute his fact findings for the jury's. They may also argue that the enhancements or the sentencing based on non-jury found facts violate the recent Supreme Court proceedings or sentencing guideline norms. Though this will depend on jurisdictional law, they also allege that the judge's reasoning, repeated references to coercion, because he was talking about the coercion, he was talking about the violences when he was talking, because he did his own speech, the judge did his own diatribe. All right, cool. So the repeated references to coercion, which the judge rejected, deprived Diddy of a fair sentencing process. Now, what does the judge acted like a 13th juror mean? Okay, here's how you explain the concept simply. Okay, in a jury trial, the jury, normally 12 people, hears the evidence and decides guilt or innocence of the accused on each charge count. The judge does not replace the jury in determining those facts. Instead, the judge uses the jury's verdict as well as other findings, sometimes by the judge himself, to determine what sentence is appropriate under the law. Now, when defense says that the judge acted as a 13th juror, they mean that the judge overstepped by reassessing or disagreeing with the jury's verdict, factual findings, for example, concluding that Diddy used coercion, even though the jury said that he didn't, and he was not guilty of that, right? And he was not guilty of the alleged coercion, and then use that reassessment to impose this harsher sentence. Now, it's essentially a complaint that the judge substituted his own view of the facts or found facts that the jury declined to find, rather than simply accepting the jury's verdict and applying the law accordingly. Now, so acting like a 13th juror equals the judge playing the role of a jury member, fact finder, rather than only a sentencing judge, because that's what he's there for. Even though the judge is there watching the case too, so he's going to have his own feelings about certain things, but he has to base that on what the jury is saying as well. You know what I mean? So in that case, it's kind of a tricky one. You know what I mean? It was kind of tricky. So if the defense succeed on appeal in showing that the judge improperly considered acquitted conduct or effectively eroded the jury's factual findings, the sentence could be vacated or remanded for a new sentencing hearing without the problematic fact finding. Such a ruling could also affect how sentencing guidelines apply in future cases, especially the jury acquits on certain counts and the judge uses related conduct in sentencing. It could change some of those facts on how that happens now, because this is a big case as well. You know, this is like an OJ case as well. So, you know, any case could probably do that, but this case specifically is a case that can do that. It raises larger questions about fairness of sentencing and the respect for jury verdicts, especially in high profile cases. Like, do you respect what the jury said or not? The jury didn't believe Jane and Cassie when it came to all of the trafficking and all of the other stuff, whether you agree it, whether you think it, whether you side with victims or not. The jury did not agree with that wholly. They didn't. They didn't buy the story. They think that them women was there. Maybe at times they weren't, but they believe wholeheartedly they were there because they wanted to be there. That's why they found Diddy not guilty of those 3 big charges. See what I'm saying? but they found him guilty of other prostitution and all of those things. But the judge said that he was using coercion and he was using abuse to keep those things going on. So the judge kept making references to those things. And that's what the defense is arguing as well, that he just kept making references to those things. So it goes to show you that if maybe it was malicious, it was the intent there, that he was using his own thought instead of basing it on what the jury said. Now, so for Diddy, personally, a successful